Welcome back to episode 2 of Little Bit Naked. I am your host, Rachel Paz, and today I have with me Samantha Sansone. Welcome. So excited to have you.
Me too. I'm so excited.
So as you know, this is an experiment in intimacy. So really what happens when two people sit down and get present and let what is alive and wants to show up be spoken, and then like what happens from there. Thanks for playing with the experiment.
I love it.
And so the way that I like to begin is really to just like take a moment and like get connected to yourself. And you can close your eyes to do that, and just like whatever, like feeling for whatever is alive in your body, in your life, like and I'll just disclose that we had some tech issues at the start, so I'm a little bit like somewhere else at the moment, but I'm gonna get here.
Yeah, I'm just feeling a lot of excitement right now. Excitement for, there's been a theme this week coming up for me around adventuring and embracing the adventures of life. And, in the past, I get stuck in my head a lot. And it's like, how do you embrace these aspects of yourself where you get out of your head? And I think that's a big thing I've struggled with as that former perfectionist, and all of that past identity. And yeah, I think as you were asking me to like drop into my body, like that's been like step one of getting in sync with those parts of myself and learning how to start showing up and trusting whatever wants to come up, like the very thing that you're having these conversations around. So
I love that.
Yeah, so just honoring whatever wants to come up, which has been adventure for me right now.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so for me, adventure has typically presented itself through travel. And lately, like I just got back from Hawaii. I was called to the island a few weeks ago. So that was a big adventure. And I think in the past, I used to think I was using travel as some kind of like escapism or escape route. But as I've learned more about myself, it's become clear that no, this is the tool that I can use to go deeper and use those experiences as reflective journeys. So, whether it's solo travel or whatever, taking the time on the travel to reflect and journal and connect with those pieces, connect with nature, which I forget to do sometimes in the day-to-day, has been what I've been called to do. And I love exploring like the subconscious and all that stuff and the ego. And so I found like my ego was like showing up in my subconscious and trying to prevent me from traveling, saying, oh, it's escapism and all this stuff, when really it was the thing that I've been desiring to honor. So just leaning into that travel. And there's a lot of opportunities coming up for me for travel, which have just kind of been falling into line in the next few months. So I'm just trying to lean into that and embrace it wholeheartedly and see where it takes me. Like, going with the flow of life a little bit more, trying to get out of the head.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm just gonna slow us down a little bit.
Okay.
Because there was a lot what you just said. It's funny that you mentioned adventure, because I woke up a couple of days ago and was like, I'm going on a road trip. And it's funny because the last time I went on a road trip, like I was camping probably. you know, it was like get in the car and I was like, oh no, I want to go on like a luxury road trip. And I want to spend time outside, but then I want to sleep in really like decadent places, right?
Oh, that's me, 100% glamping. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I really love about like how it's presenting itself to me is it's like I don't have to be one thing or the other. I get to actually have it the way that I want it. And there's a beauty about going beyond like I remember in my 20s, I used to try to like brag that I was like granola or whatever. And now I'm like, oh my God, like I am so far from that. But in some ways, I really like have a lot of qualities of someone who may identify in that way. I don't even know if people use that word anymore. But but it's funny to like see like there are these threads of who I am, like being connected to nature, like really desiring to eat like food grown as close to the earth as possible. You know, like those kinds of things have been really consistent for me throughout my lifetime. But I used to think that I needed to be like dirty and like you know, camping all the time and like doing all these like particular things to like live up to that identity. And now that is just not the case for me. I'm like, I would like this, and I would like a whirlpool tub in my hotel room. Thank you very much.
I love that you brought this up because adventuring and traveling has allowed me to explore these different pieces of myself. I totally relate to what you're saying about having one way maybe in the past like show up, like this one piece of your identity want to like show up, and then like the more I've embraced the travel and embraced the flow, like you're saying, these different pieces that I didn't know were inside of me, like, oh, there's this piece that enjoys, you know, the spontaneity of travel, which conflicted, you know, in the past with that perfectionist, like, no, we need a schedule, like, you know, all this kind of stuff has like surfaced. And then of course you look at the deeper wounds, you heal that stuff, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, I love spontaneous travel. I love pulling off on the side of the road and finding that hole in the wall restaurant that I didn't plan for. You know, all of that has surfaced. So I so relate to what you're saying about that, and it's been incredible learning more about myself through the adventuring. So
yeah, I have this thing that I do pretty regularly, actually, maybe once a week or so, where I will go on an intuitive adventure.
Oh.
And I will get in my car, and at every intersection, I'll be like, am I going left, right, or straight? and I will just do whatever I'm guided to do. And it's so fun, number one, because I don't know what I'm doing. And I kind of like that. But also, like, it's been such a beautiful exercise in trusting that I'm not going to screw it up. Right, that you can't actually screw it up. And it's like, okay, well, the worst case scenario is like 2 hours of your day is gone or whatever. But like, was it really that bad because you stopped and got a coffee and you saw some beautiful scenery, you know, whatever. And so for me, it's been a really cool way to, like, you know, like with like using small habits to like bridge into the bigger thing. So for me, like, being willing to go on an intuitive adventure, like, also has stretched my capacity to like go on an intuitive adventure in my whole life, right? And so now, like, my muscle to do that in like everyday living and like plans and like what am I doing with my life, whatever those questions are, has become a lot stronger.
I love that. Okay, now I want to try that because that sounds absolutely incredible and fun.
Super fun.
Oh my god. Yeah.
It's
Um,
and I have a bit of like recovering perfectionist too, right? And I remember when I was working with a mentor who first exposed me to, like, we were on a retreat together, and we were in the car and she was driving, but she arrived at an intersection and she said which way, and I was like, oh fuck, I don't know. And I remember like having such a strong reaction of like, but I don't know where we're going.
mm,
And I don't like not knowing where we're going, because if I knew where we were going, then I could like figure out how to get there, right?
mm,
And so for me, it was such an illumination of like how uncomfortable I used to be with not knowing.
mhm,
And now I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I have no problem saying I don't know. I'm really clear I don't know. I'm also really clear that most other people don't know either, and they're just pretending that they do.
mhm,
And um, and so like trusting myself in the ways that I operate when I don't know in particular
mm,
has been really powerful in my life.
mm. Yeah, I mean, like this podcast for me was that leap, like we don't have, a structured topic or anything. So like this is the very, yeah, practice of what you're saying for me. And um yeah, it feels great. It's like you're on that edge of, like
Can I trust the thing that wants to come out of my mouth right now? Can I say that really weird thing that is occurring to me? Yeah. Well, what is it? What's next?
well, the thing that I've been working through as of late, which I thought would be an interesting story to share, as I've been traveling as of late, I had this like intense fear start coming up for me, and it was around plane turbulence. Oh my god, something in my eye. Was around plane turbulence, and I was like, what is going on? Like all of a sudden, I'm having like all this intense fear with travel. And I ended up doing like an energy session around it, and I was really like trying to explore like what's coming up, why is this coming up. And it was like the metaphorical representation, like the plane represents forward momentum in life, and it was me ultimately like resisting, as I'm trying to adventure more and more, resisting this, moving forward into the unknown. And so I was like so fascinated by this fear arising and like that exploration of that. So yeah, that's what was coming up for me to like talk about today, because it just shows like, you know as you're adventuring and doing all these things, like you don't know what's going to present, and it's all growth opportunities. And it was beautiful for me to like go through that, and didn't feel so great like as I'm like on the plane adventuring, but yeah, it was such a beautiful gift to uncover.
What is your like general response to fear?
Ooh.
Or what
um,
has it been? I mean, I
yeah,
know we're always working with that, right?
it's totally like it just takes me right into my head, right out of the body, like initially. So it goes to what's going on? Like I need to fix this. I need to. That resistance immediately just comes up, and it's like I don't want to feel this. I don't want to, it just pushes everything away. And then as I do drop into my body, it's inevitable. Like the fear just takes over in my body. The tightness in the throat, or just pure anxiety washing over me. And I feel like almost locked into that feeling. It's like I can't escape. I can't get out of this, and it just feels very just like a dense energy, just stuck and swirling and full of confusion. And it does inevitably lead me to this place of like prayer and like, almost pseudo surrender, because, I wouldn't be suffering this much if I was actually surrendering to those feelings. So it's almost this like pseudo, please help me. I don't want to feel this. That presents itself, which just further keeps that resistance there. So not very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm thinking about the idea that when we tune into the sensations, that like anything can feel good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just sitting here like letting like the sensation of fear kind of run through my body for a minute. I was like, oh, that's actually not bad. But I'm not diminishing your experience of that at all. I totally get it. And for me, one of the ways to like work with anything that I've considered kind of undesirable, right, is to like actually let myself be connected in my body with like, what does this actually feel like? And can I find pleasure in it? You know, can I find authority over it? And can I feel pleasure from it?
I love that you brought that up because this past week, like the timing of this is crazy for me. I came across the book Existential Kink, and I have literally been exploring this topic of how it's a new topic for me, but how can I flip everything on its head? How can I turn fear into, like you're saying, pleasurable experiences? How can I embrace the shadow side of myself? And so this week has really also been about looking at those shadow pieces that not only come up, as I'm adventuring out in life, but just, in general. And how can I start having fun and playing with this? It's almost like a trickster energy, or this kind of like whatever wants to come up. Like, how can I get joy out of this weird, kink we have with, how does she say it in the book? Like getting off on playing victim, or, getting off on whatever, wherever we're stuck,
So for anybody not familiar with the book, Existential Kink by Carolyn Elliott, although she's changed her last name, do you have a different last name for her?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. When she first wrote it, she was Carolyn Elliott. I don't know what is listed under now. So the idea is that everything in our lives is something that on some level, subconsciously, we desire to experience. And so she tells a story about being a graduate student, like living in poverty on somebody's couch, right? And how one day she discovered that like she actually really liked that sensation and that there was something there for her. And so the idea is that if we can explore what it is about what we enjoy about these undesirable things that we are drawn to and continue to attract into our lives, that we can actually transform them. Because then we are no longer resisting, and we're actually being consciously aware of like, oh yeah, I picked this. And so I might as well get off on it because I picked this. It's a very potent practice. I love it.
When you started talking about that, I was like,
yes. It's funny because I picked that up from you. I don't know why I knew that we needed to talk about existential kink today, but we did. Yeah, and I think for me, one of the more challenging aspects of that practice is to actually admit how powerful you are, and to admit that the thing that you are experiencing that you really don't want to be experiencing on some level, you really want to be experiencing,
Totally.
It's like, damn, really? It's not how I was thinking of myself at all. Oh, well, you're gonna have fun with that.
Yeah, that'll be another adventure. Yeah. Big adventure, I think. Yeah.
I always like to think of the adventure as like the inner adventure and the outer adventure. So like I am a person who loves both. And if I'm not having one or the other, I generally am like a little restless, you know? But I also was going to tell you a story about one of my experiences with existential kink. So when I was reading the book, are you hearing an echo?
I'm not.
Okay, cool. Onward. I remember I had just, I was on the heels of some sort of breakup, um,
Mm.
and that I had initiated, but I had initiated it because I felt like the man that I was dating just wasn't that invested, and like I was not having the experience that I wanted to have. And so I'm reading the book, and one day I go to have lunch at a restaurant. I'm in a Mexican restaurant. I sit at the bar, and there were not very many people in the restaurant at the time. And the bartender, like a very professional, like hello, but not like an overly like I'm interested hello, right? Takes my order, all the things, leaves me alone. And I sit there. I sit there and I'm choosing to do like an exercise with myself about like, okay, what is something about this experience with men that I'm having that I really like. And I think the thing that I decided to look at was like being needy or something. And so I just drop into the sensation of like how good it feels to be needy, and I can feel it like circulating through my whole body. And like I felt it like amplify and moving, and then like a few minutes later, I like brought it to a close. Immediately, two men come and sit to my left. The bartender comes over, another man comes out of the kitchen, and they all want to talk to me at the same time. And I was like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, it was so obvious that like I had just like stopped resisting whatever that was and allowed it through my system, and was like, oh, okay, magnet is back on.
I love that. I'm curious. Have you found that like those kind of shifts, I'm new to the practice, like those shifts, like it's like a practice you need to, um, for your example you're giving, like you need to practice that over and over, or do you feel like it dissolved that thing pretty immediately and it cleared that one piece for you?
What I would say, is that these consistent like when we find ourselves in a state of consistently drawing similar circumstances over and over again, that the practice itself is not enough, because there's something underlying the foundational aspects of who we are that is keeping that in place. So that might be ancestral trauma, that might be just super strong conditioning from our childhoods. For me, what I came to realize about myself is that I did not grow up feeling safe. And there was nothing happening in my family that, well, I don't want to discount my experience. I physically was very well protected. Like, it wasn't anything like that. I don't have any big T trauma in my life, but emotionally, I did not feel safe ever. And so when I started exploring these practices, like I could do the practices over and over again, but I still didn't feel safe in my body. And so it wasn't until I went and addressed some of the roots of that I really started to see some resolution around some of that. But also, when we expand, when we are trying to get bigger and take up more space and fulfill our potential in the world, like, we're gonna have resistance, and like those periods tend to be when some of those behaviors are when the patterns kind of kick up, right? And so having practices in those moments to like bring yourself back, and I don't actually utilize the existential kink practice much anymore. I have some different practices that I do, but still a really great place to spend time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what I love about all these different tools is just that they all like shed light on things in new ways. And like you can just learn so much about yourself from different angles. And yeah, I think I love like picking up tools and trying them on and just seeing how it goes. And then, yeah, I love that so much.
Yeah, it's true. And more, I have found that the energetic seed
Mm,
of a practice is actually really important
mm,
because practices are seeded with consciousness.
mm,
And so for me, that looks like being really discerning about teachers and teachings
mhm.
in ways that I didn't used to be. And that's something that, we only can find through experience, really. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, I took a program with a woman that was a movement program, right? So harmless, right? And what I started to notice is that, we had calls. It was a big group program, and every Saturday there were calls. And in the in between movement, she would talk a little bit about like the dynamics or relationships between men and women.
Mm,
And in listening to her talk about men, I was like, oh, nope, I'm a total no to this philosophy. And like all of a sudden, like this thing that I loved, I was like, oh no, no, no. Like this is not built on something that I actually want to support and
mhm,
perpetuate in the world, right? And so for me, that has had like I've had to create, or be willing to walk away from things that on the surface like felt valuable to me, and that I was like, oh, actually, nope, that's not a fit for me. Uh,
mhm.
but it's interesting. It's, um,
Yeah. I think that's something that I've struggled with like in the past a lot and I still do is like you're saying like building that muscle of discernment and again as I was talking about earlier like leaning into trusting your intuition and self-trust and playing with that and I think what's kept me stuck in my mind so much in the past has been because I didn't have that muscle of self trust to filter out all that noise and like oh I want to read this book I want to do it all and then it's like whoa it's all too much but yeah like over time realizing like a I don't want to live that way stuck in the mind and b you know, learning like, well, do I agree with that? Do
mhm,
I does that like who am I? What do I feel called to supporting and what feels naturally in alignment with who I am? Like that has been a big part of the journey. And I think it's showed up in my daily life in like small ways and big ways. So it's um building the self trust has not only been in big ways with like coaches or mentors or work opportunities or whatever, but even just like what food do I want? All those small ways, building the trust. That has been probably the biggest thing that's helped me figure out who I am. So,
mhm.
yeah.
And it never ends.
Yeah. But I've started falling in love with that journey instead of being like, oh my gosh, like that perfectionist, like I thought I set a goal and I wanted to be there and it didn't. Oh, check on to the next. And it's become this falling in love with the journey, which adventuring has helped me do that, falling in love with the journey. So,
And not making yourself the problem.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, the idea that we are not flawed, there is no perfection inherently because we are all perfect as we are. Like that has been something to, I've heard it so many times, but it was like, how can I feel it? So it's chipping away at those layers and healing till you can feel it in the body. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really, I think of it as really brave work.
Totally. Totally. It really is. Yeah.
And most often unseen work, you know, because it's so private, it's so intimate that those tend to be things that we do in not in secret necessarily, but like,
Mhm.
you know, in a veiled way,
Yeah.
right? And I think that um, yeah, I think I mean, not that we need the whole world like celebrating, like, yeah, you're doing your work, right? Because I think our own acknowledgement and our own celebration of like, I did that. I took myself through that, right? Is actually enough. It's more than enough. Um, but I know that there are humans in the world who are really dedicating themselves to becoming more whole and all of that, and that benefits the collective greatly.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was so excited when you reached out with this podcast opportunity, because I'm like, I don't, have many opportunities to have these vulnerable and, see where this leads us conversations, and
Mm.
just being super open and raw with our experiences and stories and things. So I was like, I'm in. Like, I was like, I love this. Yeah. So
I love it. Yeah. Mm. There's something bubbling. Give me a moment. What's really funny is that I I was just sort of like connecting to the energy, and I had like a little bit of like a um, vision of like last night, like what I was up to last night. I was having like family dinner with my former husband and my son, and it turned into like a big. There was conflict that needed to be solved,
mm,
and I was like, why do I want to? Why is that coming up right now? And then as I was like sitting here with it, I was like, oh, my former husband is actually here in the house right now, and I didn't know that, but I just heard him, and I was like, oh, okay, energy's here. Yeah. Anyways, I what do I want to say? Sometimes I'm so connected that it's like um, distracting. If that makes sense.
yeah.
Um, but the story that I was going to tell about last night is that so my former husband and my son have like a little bit of this ongoing rupture that like it's like a tender spot in their relationship that keeps getting poked, and my son is like, I'm having feelings about this,
Mm,
and my son's father is like, I'm trying to solve the thing on top of your feelings. Like the whatever the topic is that brought about the feelings, like can we just resolve the topic? And so we had this whole conversation at dinner, and they resolved the topic. And then after dinner, I go into the kitchen, and my son is like, I still feel really hurt. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be the referee here. And so I took my son upstairs to see his dad. And I said, we're going to figure this out right now.
I love that.
and and they were actually able to have a conversation where they could hear each other, and both of them could see their part and could see
Mhm.
the responsibility that they had for creating what was getting created. And it was actually really cool because what's funny is, like you talked a little bit about like the wounding that happens and like, that we're trying to heal from. And it's like, we bring people into our lives to help us do that, right? But oftentimes we bring people into our lives who have similar or like complementary wounding, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so the two of them are like basically having the same experience, but from different sides, you know, like they're both getting hurt in the same way. And I'm like, oh my God, stop it. Can you guys just stop it? Can you see that this is, and so for me, one of the gifts of like being in this experiment of like just being present with what is here um, feels like what has become available in my life is this like, how do I want to describe it? Almost like because I have stopped being so like obsessed with like where I'm going and what the outcome is I'm creating, the things that I get to touch along the way are they change the shape and the trajectory of the whole thing. Right. So last night, because I was like, okay, we have to, like, now is the time. This is what we're doing. Right. Now they are on a different trajectory. Whereas if I had been like, I just want to get the dishes done so I can blah, 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 you know, like that wouldn't have happened. And so for me, there's a richness of participating in my life in that way now that I know benefits the people in my life, but also like benefits me, right?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
The ripple, like seeing the actual ripple effects, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's rare, you know, in some cases to actually be able to see it play out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah. It's super, um, it's very fulfilling. It's very satisfying to my soul.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that makes me I you know, in my family I'm kind of I've always felt in the past more so like that black sheep, and I've been working on healing that black sheep feeling, and you know, I don't fit into the family and all this stuff.
Do you
And
have
so
siblings?
I do. I have two half siblings.
Mm.
They're much older. I am the baby. My sister's like 13, 14 years older. My brother like 10 years older.
Okay.
Um, but there's been this, you know, kind of questioning of like, you know, am I going to make a difference in my family as I'm healing all this? And, you know, is this doing anything? Like I feel internally it's doing things, but, you know, I haven't seen much that I'm aware of. It can be hard for us as we're like doing this work to like see outside of ourselves and know the ripple effects and everything. But that has been, you know, a big question of like, you know, is this doing anything for my family? Like I know I'm healing like the ancestral stuff, generational stuff, and it's so funny because sometimes as I'm healing stuff, I will get those divine timing kind of winks, you know, from the universe. Like someone will reach out or, you know, this or that. And I'm like, wow, you know, that it's a small little, you know, wink that this ripple effect is happening, but they're just beautiful little gifts. I love them so much.
Yeah. My last year, I was doing a lot of like releasing of familial patterns, right? And I was staying with my parents at the time. And one night, I went, my mom was in bed, and I went and sat with her, which is not a common thing. And she just felt kind of heavy, like emotionally. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And she just started, like, I had never heard these stories before, but she just started to share stories about, um, in particular, the male female, like, romantic relationships in our family line. So she shared a story about her grandfather and grandmother. Apparently, my grandfather what like had done quite well for himself in the stock market, and then the market crashed, and then the Great Depression came, right? And when he lost all of their money, my grandmother never spoke to him again. And I was like, but they stayed married, right? And I was like, oh my God, that explains so much about the way our family works. But what was interesting was in the telling of the stories, my mom started to cry, and she was like, I don't know why I'm crying. And like, I was just like, you're just releasing all of the stuff that I have just healed for you. You're welcome. Like there was a way that it was so obvious to me that what I had done, that the releasing that I had done, like made space for her to just let it go really easily. And I was like, okay, I don't ever need to like look for evidence again. I'm just like, okay, I'm just doing the thing, and everybody else will get what they need.
Oh, I love how you've explained that because, you know, my relationship with my mom, very similar to the story you gave. As I've been healing stuff, you know, with my mom over time, like I've seen this shift in her of, you know, being able to open up more and go to those personal stories of, you know, self-worth issues or bullying or relationships with men, like growing up. And it hasn't been from my prompting, which is so, you know, unlike her to share and open up. And so I love how you've, you know, frame that you know there's a space now for them to open up, because I was like, you know, what's going on here? I didn't quite understand on, you know, the brain level, thinking level, but that makes complete sense that there's that, you know, energetic space. So that's
Yeah,
fascinating.
like when we're not pushing something away,
Mm-hmm.
then people don't feel that in our presence. And then when things come up that might be hard for them, they either feel more supported for it to come through in our presence, or you know, they're more willing to let it be seen or something. You know, like it's like when we have permission for ourselves, it other people can borrow that permission, right? And to whatever extent is up to them, obviously. You know, some people take me up on it, some people don't. But it is really cool to see like the more like in approval I am of like who I am and my full range of experience, that like other people are just like, okay, here's what it is, and I'm like, all right. Yes. I love it. I love it so much.
and and I've also found that, like, even in my romantic partnership, you know, as um I used to be that person who's like the fix it hat, you know, it's like what you were talking about earlier, like how can I fix this, and how can I like avoid the emotions behind it, and like I don't want you to be mad at me, and like all that stuff. And healing some of that, that's been a big practice for me of just like I can hold space for other people, but there was this kind of blind spot, like in my romantic relationship, him being, you know, the closest to me. And I was like, why am I struggling to do this with him? And, you know, dealing with the distrust with men, or, you know, that perfectionist hat wanting to come on and avoid all those messy feelings, and not wanting to feel like, you know, I'm the problem, I'm the bad one because I triggered him or whatnot. But yeah, like as I've healed all that, like it's been beautiful to witness that space being built in as well for my partner to land and
Mm.
share his emotions and all of that. So
Mm.
it's been very rewarding to see.
Yeah, that's really lovely. Okay, I'm gonna say something edgy out loud.
Let me hold on to my pants.
I was like, okay. Um, what do I want to say? I am not a person who desires to hold a lot of space for men emotionally. And I have learned that the hard way. And and it's not that I don't think that men should have emotions or that they do have emotions, right? It's just like, it's my own awareness of the cost to my system when I do that, and the cost to the relationship when that happens. And because I think this isn't probably 100% clean. So take it with a grain of salt. Still working it out. But, you know, I once had a mentor who was very much like, you know, the in between the masculine and feminine, your two options are thinking or feeling. And if the masculine pole is occupying feeling, then the feminine pole is required to occupy the thinking. And so as a feminine being, if you do not desire to occupy the thinking pole, then supporting your man in his emotions is actually not going to get you where you want to go. And so that's something that like that I have been working with and on, is like how to be compassionate of and aware of like a male who is having an emotional experience, and also that it is not like that I am not choosing to like, oh, come here and do whatever you need to do in my presence with that thing. And that has like involved like my former husband, and not to say that he's like, let me come and emotionally dump all over you, but also like my 17-year-old son, who is very he's very connected to his emotions. He's a very emotional being, right? And as he's becoming a man, I'm like, it's important, I think, for him to know that there is that like, yeah, it's very comforting to go and like talk to your mommy about how you feel, right? He doesn't, he's not allowed to call me mommy ever. He used to, and I'd be like, I'm not going to be your mom anymore if you keep doing that. Let's cut that out. Oh, whoa. But teaching him in particular, like how to be with his own emotions so that he can distill like, this is the thing, and then bring that to the space in a way that like I can receive it and respond to it without the weight of the like processing of it, if that makes sense.
That's really interesting, because this is such a big, triggering topic for me, like in how I show up, even, or what I desire, because I've also found when my partners in the past have brought emotion to me, it does trigger me, and it does make me, that resistance wall does come up, because I'm like kind of that bratty, side of myself. Like, no, I just like, I want to be the princess. I want to be the like, I want to be the one that can, share my feelings. And I've struggled with, holding space, probably for that reason, because I've gotten so tired, over time, of wearing the armor or whatnot. But I've observed that I think my partner does best when he can go off on his own, and whether that's through exercise or whatever he needs to do, and then comes back and we can have a conversation that's not quite as heavy, like you're saying. So that is really interesting. But I do think there are those moments where, he does want to come in and share, but he is able to stop himself and realize, okay, I'm in that emotional place, and it has become like a dumping ground. So I think it's interesting to explore that space. Yeah, for sure.
And it sounds like what you're saying, though, now that I'm hearing more of it, it sounds like your partner is perhaps feeling more emotional safety inside of the relationship. Not that you are the place where he needs to process all of his emotions, but that he just feels like, I get to be a whole human here.
For sure. There was those judgmental sides of myself that were coming up. And like in the past when he did share, like, you know, even just through communication, not necessarily like in an emotional state, just would share like, oh, I was having a rough day. Like that would even like trigger pieces of myself. Like, you're not allowed to have any of that. Like, why?
I'm the only one that can have a rough day.
Yeah, like that makes me scared. Like, oh my gosh, everything's gonna fall apart because you had a rough day. So it's more of like accepting, you know, that a man can have struggles. That doesn't mean that they're less of a man or weaker or whatever. In learning how to, be a safe place for in that sense. Yeah,
Totally.
I think that's a better way to frame it for sure. Yeah,
that makes sense. I love that. All right. I feel like we're close to wrapping up. Is there anything else that is alive and present that you want to bring into the space?
I guess, I guess I just want to like end in wrapping up on again, the whole idea of, you know, your podcast and like this idea that vulnerability can connect us and open our hearts up and all of that, and just kind of bring it full circle. I love just kind of bringing stuff full circle, and
did it deliver on the promise? That's the question.
We went on a wild adventure today, I think. Like we all these, No, I loved it. And yeah, I feel a lot closer to myself even just exploring these I didn't expect. So
that makes me so happy to hear.
Yeah.
Perfect. Then we did it right.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for taking the risk.
Thank you for setting this up, orchestrating it, and beautiful journey today.
My pleasure. If you are listening to this, which is so funny because really I told you this before we spoke, that my goal is to have a conversation that I forget is being shared with other people. Like I want to be so present in the conversation and so authentic that I forget there's an audience. But there is an audience. So if you're listening to this and you want to be a part of this conversation, you want to participate by coming on and being featured as a guest, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to participate in the conversation around like what you saw or observed or what opened up in yourself as a result of watching this conversation, leave your comments and reach out with a message. However, you know how to get a hold of me, do that. Would love to hear from you. And we'll see you next time. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Bye.